Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the webinar that will present to you the results of the Winter Outlooks 2020-2021 for ENTSO-E and ENTSO-E. My name is Claire Camus. I'm a Communication Manager at ENTSO-E. I will present to you the program for today. So after this short introduction, we will move to the presentation of the winter supply outlook results from ENTSO-E. Then we will go to the winter outlook of ENTSO-E. We will break for 5 minutes after that to allow you to send us your questions. So you can use the tool in the GoToWebinar to ask your questions to our experts. Please do so during the presentations as well, or if you want, you wait for this break after both presentations. After that, this short break, we will resume and summarize the outcome of this webinar and take a look at some interesting events. So, just a word on the purpose, the objective of seasonal outlooks. ENTSO-E Winter Outlook and ENTSO-G Winter Supply Outlook help to assess the adequacy situation, to prevent and mitigate risks to security of supply during the winter period. It's also used to inform all interested parties about the adequacy situation for gas and electricity at pan-European level, and it allows ENTSO-E and ENTSO-G to exchange information about the situation in their respective systems. So this introduction is now over, and I will move on to our first speaker, which is Kasper Zaromski. He's advisor at ENTSO-G, and he's going to present to you the results of their winter supply outlook. So Kasper, the floor is yours.
So hello everyone, I'm really glad to be here together with you, and I would like to thank you for the this opportunity to present to you ENTSO-E Winter Outlook 2020-2021. I'm Kasper Zaromski. I'm working in system development in ENTSO-E, and I will take you through the presentation today. So if we can start. Few words of introduction. The winter supply outlook is run every year by ENTSO-E to assess the network under the assumption from the TSOs for the next winter period. We are investigating evolution of the supplies together with the underground gas storages, as well as ability to satisfy the demand in European countries, and we are investigating that under different demand situations. So we are doing it under different assumptions. We are taking data collected from TSOs for the upcoming winter, so we are asking for this data. We are as well checking data, running those simulations using the highest demand since 2009. We call it cold winter, and we are investigating specific peak demand situations, which is a peak day demand with the rarity of occurrence 1 in 20 years, and 2-week cold spell with the same rarity of occurrence. But in the first case, it's only 1 day. In the second case, it's 2 weeks of the high demand. We are based our assumption on the import potential, reviewing historical data. So we are taking into current consideration. This time we took 9 years of historical data. we specifically asked this time our TSOs to include COVID-19 pandemic situation impact, of course, up to the level that they were able to assume, to make assumption on that, especially taking into account capacity assumption, and here I mean specifically possible maintenance. For the gas system, you have to know that usually maintenance is planned for the summer period. So in this case, it was not a big, I would say, change. But anyway, when TSOs were able to, we are asked for include this specific situation that we are under right now. And yeah, as a assumption continuation, I would like to say that this time we were having one of the highest gas storage level at the beginning of the season, which was basically having very significant impact on the simulation results. And yeah, it was one of the highest considering last 9 years. So if we can proceed to the first result slide. So as I said in introduction, we were checking two different demand situation case reference, which is the winter data for the next winter, and the cold winter, which is highest historical data. So outcome of both simulations in this case is that significant, like enough level of the gas in the storage at the end of the season can be achieved. The underground gas storages provide flexibility for the winter season, which you can see on the charts in the violet color, and LNG as well provides significant flexibility in this case. If you compare the data with the previous year, we are seeing that in the production over the Europe is decreasing. Like it's a following trend if you observe last 9 years. So like the main outcome of this is that there is no risk of demand curtailment in this particular situation. If you can go to the next slide, please. On top of these different demand situations and high demand events, we are as well investigating we are as well investigating different transition route disruption to check vulnerability of the gas system in the Europe and possible effect in this specific case. So we are investigating in each winter outlook 4 different disruption cases. Ukrainian route transit disruption, which means no gas is flowing through Ukraine to Europe. Disruption of the import to Baltic states and Finland, as they are countries separated from the rest of the Europe. And Belarus transit route disruption, and Algerian pipes and Algerian LNG disruption, which means no flow from Algeria. So in the first case, especially compared to the previous years, we see significant improve of the situation because of the commissioning of the Turk Stream pipeline, which is supplying the south east part of the Europe with gas. It's giving alternative route to the Ukrainian route, which means that we observe significant reduction in possible risk of demand curtailment. So in this simulation results, we can see that in case of peak day or 2-week cold spell, only Romania is exposed to possible demand curtailment, and this is because of some infrastructure limitations. So it doesn't mean that there is not enough gas in the region. It's because of all interconnectors in this case would be used. What we are not simulating is demand response in situation of the market response in case of the high demand situation, which means that markets usually reacts when is a peak day, and there is a together with that, there is usually a drop in demand. So we see that risk of the demand curtailment here is very, very low. Another route disruption case with some possibility of demand curtailment is in case of the import to Baltic states and Finland. Since last year, we see that cooperation between countries is possible. Previously, Finland was separated from the Baltic states as well, but since last year, and it was already in the previous winter outlook there, Baltic connector is connecting both countries, and we need to. So then we see that countries are cooperating up to the technical possibility, and we need to bear in mind that that pipeline between Finland and Estonia is not running on a full design capacity yet, and if until it will be, the cooperation will be extended. After that, we need to remember as well that there are projects connecting Baltic states and Finland to the rest of the Europe, which are now under construction. In case of the two different transit route disruption, which is Belarus and Algerian pipes, we were not observing any risk of demand curtailment in case of high demand situations there. Yes, if we can proceed. So together with winter outlook, we are as well running winter review winter review report, which is very, I would say, useful when looking into the past and then learning from it. So the outcome, maybe the summary for the previous winter season, was that we were observing significant increase of the LNG supply share in the Europe. You can see it on the top left chart, on the bottom left chart, and with the comparison to the previous, even previous winter. Then we can see that storage level at the end of winter was really high comparing to the previous seasons. So that's the light blue line on the top of the chart. And you can see that it ends basically much higher than in case of the rest season. So summer period that was following the previous winter was already having quite high gas storage level. Then the summer period was the time when gas is stored, and that's why as well we started simulations for this winter outlook with very high level of the gas. So at the same time, we can see that previous winter was the time when the gas prices were very low. Considering last 8 previous winters, that was the lowest gas prices over the Europe, and that was because different, of course, situation. One of it was mild winter weather, and in the mild winter weather we were not having like big demands. Then we have oversupplied market, and on top of that, in the end part of the winter, so basically from the March, we are observing as well drop in demand because of the preventive actions taken for the COVID-19 pandemic situation. So in March, demand dropped as well. That was the summarization for the review. If we can follow the next slide. So the conclusion of the winter outlook and the review this time is that as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic situation, this led to the decline in consumption by industry, to the oversupply market and drop in European gas prices. At the same time, the outcome of the simulation was that European gas network is resilient to high demand situation and supply route disruption, including possibility to end the season with the significant gas stored in the storages. Production keeps decreasing year after year. LNG increased its role as a provider of flexibility. So, and the utilization was higher and higher comparing the previous seasons. Under different situations, Europe would be able to supply energy community contracting parties with the gas up to the requested volumes. And improvement in southeastern Europe was observed because of the commissioning of the new infrastructure, which means the commissioning of the Turk Stream there. So that limited exposure to the demand curtailment risk in Romania, Bulgaria, and neighboring countries there as well. And of course, this simulation proven that storages are necessary and they are still having significant role to provide enough flexibility for the winter season. So that's it from my side. I would like to encourage you to visit ENTSO website and to download full report. Please do not hesitate to prepare some questions for the Q&A session. And of course, if there would be a need for some answers after the webinar, please do not hesitate to contact ENTSO and we'll be happy to assist you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Casper, for a very good presentation. So following on the program is my colleague Lucas Galdikas, who is Adequacy Analyst here at ENTSO-E, and he is going to be the one who will present to you the results of the ENTSO-E Winter Outlook. So Lucas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Claire. First of all, can you confirm that you can hear me?
Can hear you very well.
Okay, great. So welcome everybody, and I'm very pleased to present you the findings of the winter outlook in electricity system. So I saw already one question asking if you will be given the material. So regarding the winter outlook and ENTSO-E winter outlook, I would like to maybe mention that you can download it since yesterday. So the report is published alongside with some additional material like the data which we used in our simulation. So you're welcome to check it out. Now, coming back to our findings, I would like to start with giving you some context about the winter and transitioning from ENTSO-G presentation towards ours by linking this COVID-19 impact. So actually, the pandemic situation resulted in unprecedentedly high uncertainty of what can happen during this coming winter. So on one hand, from the first pandemic wave, we still observe some, in some countries, demand to be below normal levels, which would indicate that the adequacy situation should be better than in any previous years. However, we also observed that there were a number of planned outages which were rescheduled from spring, summer into winter season, which really increased the uncertainty of what could be the adequacy situation coming winter. And in light of this, we also included month of November, which we usually don't do as the month is rather favorable for the adequacy. Nevertheless, this winter, it was an exceptional case, and we decided to include for our own information and to share the results with the TSOs that TSO community, in case there would be any risk, could prepare in time and mitigate risks. On the other hand, when we discussed about the potential impact of the pandemics in coming winter, in case it would be peaking again, what we are observing nowadays, we also try to gather information from the TSOs, and what we observed was that it's highly uncertain, and it was very hard to give any kind of information with some confidence. So here, for example, as on the right-hand map, you can see potential pandemic impact on demand during winter season. So what would happen if the pandemic would peak again? And we see that the various TSOs can give various estimations what could happen in their system, and also we can even see that some TSOs were not even feeling comfortable about giving any estimations because it's so uncertain. So with this, I would like just to summarize that this winter was unprecedentedly uncertain in terms of the adequacy in power system. Next slide, please. So yes, before going into details of our findings, just a small recap of what is the seasonal outlook. So we have a range of products through which we monitor the situation in the power system. Some are on the long-term side, which are dedicated to support some policy decision making and support some investment decisions when there is a need for those. Whereas the seasonal outlook is closer to real time and it's dedicated to support preparation for potential incidents in real time, but just enough time in advance that the TSOs could prepare. And last but not least, we also have some week ahead assessments. So I would like just to stress it here is that the situation in power system is continuously changing. So whatever we identify in the seasonal outlooks, this information is being revised and adjustments are being made in the power system to ensure that the risks are controlled. And this is a continuously ongoing process. So the TSOs are working continuously to ensure the security of our power system and to keep the lights on. Nevertheless, today we will focus about the findings of the seasonal outlook, which we will present today. Next slide, please. Yes, another one. Yeah, thank you. So in the winter outlooks, we take usually a two-step approach, and we have an optional third step. Whenever it's needed, and this winter it's a perfect example when we have to take a look at that. Nevertheless, we always start from step one, where we assess the expected adequacy under normal market operational conditions. So during this step, we take all the information available and the information which we hope that it would change least. As an example, for this winter outlook, we gathered the information late September, mainly because this is our limitation of adequacy assessment, during which we can perform adequacy assessment and deliver a report for everyone. So in this case, as I just mentioned, is that we collect all the best information we have at that point in time, and we perform the adequacy assessment, during which we try to identify what are the risks if there would be scarcity in electricity market. Then from that point, once we have the results, we move to the step two. When we assess the adequacy situation after the non-market resource activation. So this is exactly the same assessment as in step one, identical background information. However, in our power system, we also include the resources which are not available on the market, but could be activated by the TSOs in case of electricity scarcity. Given these results, we pretty much know when the operational challenges could be experienced by the TSOs. However, before moving to step three, I would like to stress that in step two, we only consider the non-market resources, meaning that we consider any generation or demand side response resources which TSOs can activate. However, these non-market resources do not include measures which TSOs could take then in real time as an emergency actions. For example, some TSOs, in case of the supply lack, they can start controlling the voltage in their power system as a temporary solution to decrease demand. These kind of measures are exceptional measures, and those are not included in this kind of assessment, because simply we want to make sure that we are aware of the risks that the TSOs would need to take these kind of corrective measures. Hence, as a conclusion from this, what I would like to say whenever we will present the results is the results do not suggest the blackout of the power system. So they are just indicating that there might be a lack of supply, at least for one consumer. And second point is that even if there is some lack of supply for consumers, in real time, it might be the case that the TSOs will have these exceptional measures like voltage control, and consumers may not even notice any kind of consequences. Yeah, so in general, this is our common approach, or to have this kind of two-step adequacy assessment. And from that point, whenever we have any particular circumstances which we need to take a look at, then we move to the step 3, which you can see on the screen. It is called ad hoc investigations. And this year, what we have done is that we discussed with all TSOs and about the potential impacts of the pandemic during winter, which I briefly already mentioned before. And in conclusion, the main findings were that the situation is highly uncertain. Of course, we have to keep in mind that most of those discussions were carried on in late September, in some cases even throughout the October. So at that point in time, the situation also was completely different compared to what we know today. Yes, so with these 3 steps, we are feeling quite comfortable that we are assessing the adequacy situation in power system quite extensively. And we could move to the next slide, please. So to carry out those 3 steps, we of course need to know something about our power system, and as usually we collect and update always the information. This year, this was information in September, and according to that information, what we found quite interestingly was that on one hand, we see that during the winter, net thermal capacity change is reported in Europe. So once we aggregate, we see a total decrease of 6.9 gigawatts, which represents actually 1.4, I guess, % of European thermal fleet. Honestly, this is from previous seasonal outlooks. We see this kind of trend for quite a long term. Nevertheless, it just confirms that a further decline of the thermal capacity in European power system. Also, I could maybe mention also for your information that part of those capacities are actually replaced by the new installations. And in the screen, you already see the net change. So that means that the gas capacity total decreases above those 3 gigawatts, which are given on the screen. The main point is that the part of the capacity is being replaced by the new installations. This is true for all technologies, but lignite. And it is very interesting to see that the lignite are, at least for this winter, are only being decommissioned and no new installations comes into operations. Yes. So with regards of the capacity changes, these are the main messages which we noticed from our input data set. The second point is that we also take a look at the planned outages. I would like to stress once again that this is information what we have in the late September, and there were already some updates in the power system, so it's slightly different now today. Nevertheless, this is the information which we used in our assessment. There is nothing probably special from this curve. It does follow a common D shape, which reaches the minimum around January, where the European power system is most sensitive for adequacy during the cold spells. However, it is interesting to notice that there are many outages planned until yes. Thank you, Claire. There are many outages concentrating or scheduled to be finished by the end of the year. And in case of some delays, we should be following the information quite carefully and assessing continuously adequacy situation closer to real time. Next slide, please. So from this point, I'm trying to reach now the point of the adequacy result, and on the screen you can see two maps. First of all, I would suggest to maybe start from the left-hand map, which indicates the results of my mentioned first step, what would be the adequacy under normal market operations. And on the right-hand map, we have a result of the step 2, which indicates adequacy when we consider non-market resources. The main finding is that we see some risks in 4 countries: Finland, Denmark, France, and Malta. And there are in various magnitudes, I would say. The main point which I would like to mention that the circles here presented, they indicate the relative expected energy not served. They represent, yes, relative expected energy not served metric, which just represents consistently results considering the power system size. In simple words, we could maybe mention that this measure could say also which ratio of the consumers in the country could expect be affected by the supply scarcity. Next slide, please. And with these arrows, what I wanted to point is that we have two situations in Europe. With the orange arrows, I marked the countries where non-market resources are not reducing risks. And this is explained with a simple explanation that there are no non-market resources in those power systems. So whenever there are supply scarcity in the markets, the TSOs have to look for exceptional measures to cope with them. Whereas in the other 2 countries, namely Finland and Malta, the risk decreases substantially. Even though that in Finland you don't see it's a relatively small risk, nevertheless the risk still decreases because there are some market resources in those countries. Next slide, please. And this box is here just to once again to remind you that the results are presented considering the late September information, and since then there has been some important changes in the power system, and namely those are 2. So in Denmark, actually the risks are mitigated substantially by revising the outage in the network. So for more information, you can also download the report and check it out. And also we, alongside the report, we have a country comments where the EnergyNet colleagues describe the situation more in detail. And the second update is actually related to the nuclear outages in France. So those were also rescheduled, and the risks mainly decreases in November, but they remain in January and February, which we'll see just in a second in the next slide. So from that adequacy overview in this slide, you can see just some more information about how the risk evolves throughout the season. So just so maybe I will just in brief start from the top. So in the graph, you see loss of float probability metric displayed, which indicates the probability that there might be a scarcity. So in Denmark case, you see quite a high value at the beginning of November. So this period already has passed, but when we have finished our simulations, it was a very important information, and following it, the network outages were updated in Denmark, and the risks decreased substantially. Mainly, those risks were driven due to the fact that the Denmark east part at that week had only access to Sweden south zone, so there were no connection to Denmark western part, no connection to Germany's part, and even so, there were even some delays in the projects in the network. So we observed those risks, and those risks were mitigated by rescheduling some network outages and allowing or giving access during those weeks to Denmark western part. So the risks, we are transparent and we show what kind of risks we identified. But on the other hand, those risks, of course, were mitigated by the TSO. In the second row, you can see the results of Finland. And in Finland, the risks mainly peaks around January. And those risks are linked with the extreme cold spells. So in Finland, as well as France, which we will talk soon, those power systems are extremely weather sensitive, if I may say so. So whenever a cold spell hits those countries, the system reacts quite sensitively. So in this case, you can see that there is a small risk of some cold spells, and those could lead to some supply scarcity. Also, you can see that the non-market resources which are available in Finland can address those risks quite considerably. In the next row, we see the risks in France. So they are changing over the season with, I would say, peaking risks in the graph. You can see peaking risks, especially in November and February, and some risks throughout the December and January. So as mentioned, those risks in November and early December were mitigated by nuclear outage updates. So the main risks, and now what the French TSO is focusing on, are really the risks in January and February. Those risks, as any other risks, are continuously being monitored by the TSOs themselves or through the regional security operators, where the TSOs collaborate closer to the real time on the regional level. If you're interested on more details about the situation in France, you can also check country comments. So the RT colleagues provided also quite interesting insights of the situation in their country, as well as a few days ago, they also published their national adequacy report on their website. So feel free also to check that national adequacy assessment available on their website. If you cannot find, you can also check on ENTSO-E Winter Outlook report. We have a link there in the report itself. So feel free also to use that link. And last but not least, we also see some risks in Malta. In Malta, these risks are, let's say, I'm not sure if I can say that they are common, but it's just the nature of their power system. their power system is interconnected only with Italy, namely Sicily. And due to this fact, they have also non-market resources on which they rely in case of high outages in their power system. So this is quite common, I would say. And the main point what this graph shows is that those non-market resources in Malta are capable to do quite a good job to address those supply scarcity moments. And with that, I think that this was the last slide on the results of the winter outlook. And just to conclude, maybe one sentence, what I would like to say is that the situation in the power system is continuously changing. And the TSOs are together monitoring those risks and adapting as needed. So closer to the real time, whenever there are more accurate weather forecasts, if the adjustments are needed, the TSOs are looking to do whatever is possible to minimize those risks and to make sure that electricity is supplied to all consumers, or at worst case, if there is a lack of supply in the power system, that only a small portion of the consumers would be affected by this lack of supply. So that's it, Claire. I would give a word back to you.
Thank you very much, Lucas, for this good presentation as well. As planned, I propose that we now close this webinar, or put it on hold for 5 minutes. So it's 11:43 now. So if we come back at around 11:50, so we can give you the answers of our experts to your questions. So please take advantage of this short break to fill in your questions on the tool, and we'll resume at 11:50 to answer them. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking how to cluster them because I mean some are linked to the. I mean those two first, which I mentioned from Hubert and the Pauline, they're probably very nice to answer at the beginning. Then we have something on the COVID, I guess, like question 2 and last one at least. Maybe there are some more.
So welcome back. We have received a number of questions. There are some similar ones, so I will try and group them a bit. First of all, I think if you're looking for both the winter outlook from ENTSO-G and from ENTSO-E, we will you will find the links, or you just go to the both the ENTSO-G.eu website or the ENTSO-E.eu website. Both documents are available now online. So Lucas is with us again, and one of the questions is about what do you consider as a non-market resource. So there was one question from Pauline on do balancing reserves are in balancing reserves including in the non-market resources, and there was another one also about non-market resources. Yeah, what are they actually? So Lucas, if you are ready, maybe you can take these first two questions.
Yes, thank you, Claire. So with regards to non-market resources, we consider those resources if they are available for TSO to be activated in case of the supply scarcity in the electricity system. So it can be any kind of these kind of resources, and the most common ones would be strategic reserves in Europe. So those reserves are not competing in the electricity market in general. They are out of the market. However, this kind of resources, if they can be activated by the TSOs in case of the supply scarcity, we consider them as non-market resources. Once again, I would like to stress that it is not only generation side, it includes also the demand side response. If that demand side response is only activated in case of the supply scarcity. That I would also like to distinguish demand side response from a general. So most of the demand side response are considered in our step 1, so in the simulations under normal market simulations. And the main difference, when do we consider in which way, is the activation type. So if the DSR is responding to the market signals, so to the market prices, then it is considered as available in the market. If the demand side response would be not responding to the market signals, but only would be activated based on the TSO instruction, then we consider that as a non-market resource. And coming back to the question about the balancing reserves, this is, I would say that balancing resources are not considered here as non-market resources as such. However, part of the balancing reserves are considered in our step 1 simulations under a normal market simulation. So just in brief to mention is the main point is that we consider replacement reserves in our simulations, but we exclude any kind of frequency replacement reserves or frequency containment reserves. Those are excluded. So yes, to conclude, non-market resources are resources which TSOs could activate in case of the supply scarcity, and balancing reserves, part of it, the tertiary, the replacement reserves, are considered in our base case simulations.
So there was one additional question. Kindly explain non-market resource activation. I think you said what that means exactly.
Okay, great.
Let's move on to the COVID questions. So there is one specific one on slide 11 of the ENTSO-E winter outlook presentation. On this slide 11, maybe I can try and go back to this slide, but it's easier. Okay, so on this slide, the question is, sorry, I just have to go back. Yeah, in the COVID scenario, you have a category purple color of no further demand reduction. So what original decrease does this refer to? What does this imply for the other color codes on the graph, under or over 5% reduction on top of what?
Yes. Yes, very relevant question, I guess. It is more explicitly written maybe in the report, but I will try to just brief it up here. So on the left hand, we see the information of demand for the coming winter if there would have been no further pandemic evolution. Or in other terms, it shows a sort of a residual impact of the COVID-19 pandemics from spring and summer. So as an example, the purple countries indicate that there might have been a decrease of, now I'm just talking on the left-hand map, or just to stress it out. So on the left-hand map, the purple countries indicate that even if there was a demand decrease during the first pandemic wave, the demand has recovered to the normal levels of for the winter season, or it would have been recovered if not the peaking pandemics again. While on the yellow countries indicated that the demand probably was recovering, however, it didn't reach yet the normal levels. So as an example, it is a French system, right? So we see it in yellow, which says that the demand is still under the normal levels, which was observed for many years. And this kind of information we have used in our simulation. So all the adequacy results which we saw, they're referring to these kind of assumptions. Now, moving to the map on the right, this was, we seek for additional insight, and we asked the TSOs, what do you think? Could the demand decrease further if the pandemic would return? And here is, of course, a huge uncertainty. However, these metrics of how much it could reduce, like in France, what does it mean when it shows that demand could decrease up to 5%? It means that from the current levels, it could decrease further by up to 5%. So this is interpretation. This, of course, suggests that probably this demand decrease could relieve slightly adequacy situation in Europe. However, as it is mentioned in the bullet points on the left, we cannot just take a potential impact on the demand, which would have a relieving effect on the power system adequacy, because there may be also some impact on the other elements in the power system, and especially on the planned outages, or fixing the unplanned outages. So in place, if there would be some restrictions of how many people can do the planned outages at the same time, these kind of works could take more time, or it could be, so they could be prolonged, or they could be delayed, and this could cause a negative impact on the adequacy. So overall, it is very hard to say what would be the final impact of the pandemics on the adequacy, mainly because it depends on the magnitude of the pandemics, and also it depends on the national measures taken in each country.
Thank you, Lucas. I'm moving down the list because I see some people who have asked questions have left the web conference. So I will ask a question by Tobias. For calculating the probabilistic figure of energy non-served, what probabilistic data was used? Lucas, I think this is again for you.
Yeah. Now I'm just, Claire, could you just guide me once again? Well, where was the question? Just to make sure.
It's just after the question of Hubert on what are the non-market resources. So you had, I'm just counting down the questions. Did you find it?
Yes, I found it. So okay, what probabilistic data was used, right? So yes, so the question refers also to the Monte Carlo simulations, and indeed this is what we have used. So I think that now just taking a look, yes, Claire, if you want, you can try to reach slide 26 if you can. Okay. It could help for the user, for the viewers. But the main point is that we collect the expected information of the situation in the power system. The slide Claire is hidden, so I don't know if you can.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Okay.
So the main point is that we collect all the information which we know, the best estimate. So what would be the reservoir levels at the beginning of season? What are the planned outages? How much of the capacity we have, and so on. Then we take a number of the weather scenarios. So it is usually we have a 35 or something like that climate scenarios, and we assess the adequacy under all of them. And further on, for each climate scenario, we also consider additional element of the unplanned outage scenarios. So at the end, we come with a large number of Monte Carlo scenarios, as it is technically called, and we assess the adequacy situation for each of them. And then the probabilistic figures, all of them, ENS or loss of load probability or any other, are calculated based on those simulation results, which are usually an hourly energy non-served value. So an hourly values of how much load shedding would be necessary to ensure the security of system operations.
Thank you, Lucas. If I go down the list, we've got a question from Christian. It's more related to the TYNDP and the future scenarios. So in what level of electric vehicle market share penetration do you notice an adequacy challenge for the system? So thank you very much, Christian, for this question. What I would suggest is that if you have the possibility to join us tomorrow for the TYNDP 2022 webinar on the TYNDP 2022 storylines report. There we will discuss all sorts of things that can impact indeed the power system, and electrification of transport is one of them, but there are many more. So if you can just join in for that. Otherwise, I'm sure that the webinar will be recorded and will be published on our website, so you can catch with it later. So if we go down further in the list of questions, I'm just reading one from Amanda. It's about the links between the winter outlook for electricity and the provision of the risk preparedness regulation for electricity, in particular, what the activities of monitoring and preparation, early warning for an electric crisis are concerned. So Lucas, are you able to take also this question by Amanda?
Yes, indeed, actually, the winter outlook addresses some tasks given the risk preparedness regulation. Maybe I could just briefly mention that in that regulation, there are two types of, at least from my position, or how I see it, there are two types of monitoring needed. So the continuous monitoring of the adequacy, what we do here with the winter outlook a few months ahead before the coming season, and also the later on the regional security coordinators take over the task, and then they do the weekly assessments. So this is covered in that regulation. On top of that, in that regulation, it also mentions about the assessment of the crisis scenarios. So and preparing the plans to address those crises. So ENTSO-E at the moment is working. Other my colleagues are in charge of those activities, and ENTSO-E together with all TSOs will prepare some regional crisis scenarios in this regard. So for this information, you can just follow the information on the ENTSO-E website later on. But indeed, the winter outlook is indeed addressing part of the requirements set in the risk preparedness regulation.
Thank you, Lucas. So going through the other questions, it's mainly again about the non-market resources or the market resources. So I'm just gonna read them out loud. Maybe you answered them already, but just to make sure. So Tobias is asking whether the FRR, frequency replacement reserve, restoration reserves, I think are used for market resources. Sorry. This question is, replacement reserve is used for market resources, but not FRR. Sorry.
Yes. So the answer is that RR, replacement reserves, they are considered in our assessment. FRR and FCR are excluded from our assessment. And this is mainly because those FCR and FRR are really necessary to ensure the system operational security, and we have to have them even when the supply situation is tight. So this is the main reasoning behind. So yes, RR are considered, which are replacement reserves, FRR, which are frequency restoration reserves, and FCR, frequency containment resource, are excluded from our resource list.
Okay, I think there was another question that the person has left. So what we can say is that the presentations of today will be available on ENTSO-E and ENTSO-G website, so you can have a look further at them. There aren't any other questions, I think, that we haven't really answered. If that is the case, I'm sure my colleagues will be able to answer in writing. So we still have a bit of time, so we'll continue with the next slide, if that's okay with all the panelists.
Yes, for me it's fine.
So let's move on. So I'd like to summarize some important points about the presentations that you've seen today. So the ENTSO-E and the ENTSO-G seasonal outlooks are unique, pan-European and system-wide analysis of security of supply. The adequacy is assessed in electricity system under various conditions. For the gas system, it's under extreme cold events or in case of supply route disruptions. The COVID-19 is leading to high uncertainty, and the adequacy situation will need to be closely monitored throughout the winter, especially in case of a cold spell. And the methodology used for assessing adequacy in the seasonal outlook is continuously being improved. So moving on, we'd like to just give you sort of heads up on what's happening tomorrow from 10 o'clock Central European Time. ENTSO-E and ENTSO-G will hold a stakeholder consultation online workshop on their draft report on TYNDP 2022 scenarios draft storyline. So this is clearly not to be missed event if you're interested on the future power system. So you can register on both the ENTSO-E and the ENTSO-G website. I will also want to highlight the fact that the TYNDP 2020 for ENTSO-E is also under consultation. There is also events to present the content of the TYNDP 2020 this week, and we encourage you to go on our consultation hub and participate to the consultation. And I will also give the floor back to Casper, because he would also like to highlight the fact that the TYNDP for gas is also out for consultation.
Thank you very much. So taking opportunity of this situation, I would like to warmly welcome you and invite you to the ENTSO-G TYNDP 2020 public consultation ongoing until the 8th of January 2021, and the presentation day that will take place in web. It will be webinar, and the day is December 16th, 2020. More details you can find on ENTSO-G website in the event section. So yeah, once again, if you'd like to express your opinion or to get more information from the about the ENTSO-G TYNDP, please feel invited. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Casper. So a lot of important consultations and webinars coming up for people interested in both the future of the gas and electricity system. I would like to very much thank the panelists today for their presentations and for taking on questions from the audience, and thanks to the audience for being with us this morning and for having asked pertinent questions to our experts. Again, both reports are available online, and the presentations today will be made available as well on our respective websites. So I thank you very much. We are closing the webinar a bit in advance, so that you can enjoy maybe a longer lunch. Thank you very much, and bye-bye, everybody.